Have you noticed the DVD aisles are looking a little bare recently? Target says they're going to be selective about DVD sales, and Best Buy says they're not selling them at all as of 2024. Do you want to see the pinnacle of human artistic achievement but don't own a physical copy of Spaceballs?
Prepare to die.
Time to Google where you can stream it this month. But how about video games? These days, most people's catalogs aren't sitting on a shelf, they're sitting in a hard drive. I mean, some games are only available through digital download. Pick up a copy of Fortnite from Walmart and ta-da! It's a code for downloading a character skin. I wonder how many parents got this for their little ones for Christmas, only to find out later that it's a digital download free-to-play game. My sister-in-law sure did. You want to get jump scared by janitors in Alan Wake 2?
Pretty funny.
Go!
Is forbidden for your own safety.
He was not there a second ago. Digital only, sorry. At this point, you could be asking,
So what if it's digital, Kingerd? We still buy it, therefore we still own it.
well, the truth is, we don't. Let's get into it.
Netflix. All the movies you want, $20 a month, and no late fees.
Once upon a time, if someone was looking for a better deal than spending $20 to buy a movie or $60 to buy a game, they would turn to services like Netflix or GameFly. Getting discs in the mail from Netflix's original business model seems dated now. I mean, it started in 1997, but it was a pretty sweet deal considering who their competition was, the almighty Blockbuster.
Nice.
And same for GameFly, but with video games. Instead of having to rush to your local video rental store to have to beat an old lady with a stick for the newest Spider-Man movie on release night, you could come home from work and maybe your next movie was sitting in your mailbox waiting for you. Keep it as long as you want, send it off when you're done, and your next one will be in a couple of business days. Simple stuff. But the trade-off here was pretty clear. If you wanted the next game or movie on your wish list, you had to send the current one back, or keep paying the monthly subscription fee to just keep the disc in your house. A good way to try out something, sure, but for people who want to feel like they own their media, this ain't it, chief. As internet capabilities and streaming devices evolved in the mid-2000s, instant gratification and convenience became more and more of a priority. In 2005, Valve changed its Steam software from a site that just updated Valve games to a storefront for third-party titles where people could buy and download games directly from Steam. And sure, plenty of PC titles could be downloaded from different launchers even before this, but Steam's success and growth over time dramatically increased the popularity of PC gaming for the average gamer household and helped smaller titles from smaller studios increase their reach. In 2007, Netflix launched its video streaming service. No more waiting a few business days between each Madea movie, now you could stream them back to back right from your living room. Well, if they were available anyway. The selections weren't always the best starting out. I mean, watching Netflix on my Wii at the time felt like I was scrolling through 80% westerns and 20% other movies from the 70s, and the picture quality was usually never comparable to just buying a Blu-ray, but there were 1,000 options to choose from. And there were other digital rental sites that tried their hand at this too, but Netflix's selection just kept growing and growing and helped it keep its spot as the top service. And as the Netflix catalog continued to grow, the snowball that would become the Netflix juggernaut started quickly replacing things like cable and satellite TV in the average household. After all, why wait for scheduled programming when you could watch what you wanted to watch when you wanted to watch it? And over time, gaming consoles leaned into digital downloads as well. They wanted to make sure they could get their products in front of customers with the lowest barrier of entry possible too. But with this convenience came another price that isn't measured by money, licenses. Let's take a look at the Steam terms of service and we're going to see something interesting. The game is being licensed to you and you hereby acknowledge that no title or ownership in the game is being transferred or assigned, and these terms should not be construed as a sale of any rights in the game. Microsoft, when you purchase software, you are actually purchasing a license to use the software rather than purchasing the software itself. Sony, when you order content from PlayStation Store, you buy a personal license to use that content for private, non-commercial use. This means you can use a product in the ways described in the license, but you do not own the product. Nintendo? Nintendo grants you a limited, non-sub-licensable license. Nintendo may revoke this license at any time. And this isn't limited to platforms and consoles. Fortnite, Activision Blizzard games, Ubisoft games, even single-player games often include wording that summed up say, you don't own this, we do, and we can take it from you at any time. Now, if you really want to get technical, you could say this has always been kinda true even with physical media. See, here's some of my favorite movies that made me the man I am today. Feel free to pause if you want to see if I'm a man of culture. But owning these movies is different from owning, say, this dog. Mwah. Oh, thank you, sweet girl. Or this one. Or this one. Ollie is scared of the room, so a picture will have to do, but this one too. Nobody else owns the rights to the dog boys but me. But for this masterpiece of a box set, I own the discs, I own the plastic, I own the paper and cardboard that make up the box. However, even one of these boxes makes clear I don't own the movie itself, the intellectual property that is Jurassic Park. And on physical media, there's usually some verbiage about you're not allowed to redistribute this film or copy it, it's for private use only. But I like simple, and my simple monkey brain says I can put these DVDs in any disc player I want, whenever I want, and so long as the disc and the player functions, I can watch the movie. I can let someone borrow this, I can sell it to somebody. Just kidding, I will never redistribute this product for profit. You get the idea. If Universal or Amblin decided they didn't want me to have access to this anymore, they'd have to physically come to my house and pry this from my cold, dead fingers.
Your proposal is acceptable.
And not just that, they'd also have to monitor me 24/7 for the rest of my life to make sure I never got my hands on another physical copy, which would be ridiculous, right? I hope. But what happens when the media is digital or the disc in it has a key that detects licensure? Well, at that point, we're relying solely on the provider of the content to keep giving us access to the content over time. But I mean, they would never take away our access to the media we bought, right? We bought it. They wouldn't do that, right? When it comes to streaming services, it is a little bit more obvious. If the content you want rotates out of a service that you do have and into a service that you don't, or no service at all, tough luck, champ, your access is gone. And anyone who subscribes to things like Netflix or Game Pass or Spotify knows not all content is available all the time. If you remember, it was a big deal when shows like Friends or The Office left Netflix. I know people that's all they watched on Netflix, and now they had to figure out what other streaming service to pay for to keep watching it, and that's in addition to their Netflix account if they wanted to keep that. Or, I mean... But what about outside of streaming with the digital media that you purchase a license for? Well, here's what losing that looks like. In December of 2023, Sony removed all movies and shows by Discovery straight out of the media libraries of customers who had purchased them. It looks like Discovery didn't want to renew their license with Sony, so maybe Sony's not the bad guy here? I don't know, maybe Sony offered garbage terms, so Discovery said no thanks. Whoever's fault it is, this would be like Sony kicking your door in, swiping your DVD collection off your shelf, and saying, thanks for your continued support on the way out the door. But, you know, digitally. In March of 2024, Ubisoft completely deactivated their 2014 game The Crew. As in, doesn't matter how you bought it, when you bought it, or even if you use its multiplayer features, it's gone. Ubisoft said their decision was based on server infrastructure and licensing constraints. I mean, I hope nobody bought this game like February 2024. I guess if you did buy it just before this, let us know in the comments how Ubisoft's middle finger felt. Then, in the gaming controversy heard around the galaxy, in May of 2024, Sony, oh hey, it's Sony again, crazy, announced that Helldivers 2, their smash hit game that restored hope to many a cynical gamer and was on the verge of bridging the console wars, would begin requiring PC players to make a PlayStation account to continue playing it?
What the hell does this have to do with anything?
Don't care how much money you paid for it, don't care if you've already been playing it for months. Sony needed to show PlayStation accounts to their shareholders, so sign up.
Service guarantees citizenship.
But don't worry, gamers, your data is safe with Sony. But I mean, Sony didn't take the game away from paying customers, right? Like the Helldivers 2 community manager said, it's just a couple of painless minutes to make a PlayStation account.
Anybody could do this and get to keep playing the game they bought, right?
Tell that to the 177 countries in the world where PlayStation Network isn't available, but people could still buy Helldivers 2. This wasn't like the PC version of Ghost of Tsushima where Sony just stopped selling it and refunded people before it actually launched. This time they were straight up removing the ability for paying customers to play the game they'd already bought. People could have been playing the game for months since it came out just to have their access to it yoinked.
Yoink!
Look, maybe that 177 number of countries isn't exact. Geography is my worst category in Trivial Pursuit, but that doesn't matter. Sony's anti-consumer practice of removing a paid product from a paying customer shouldn't have happened in one country, or even to one person. Seriously, this Helldivers 2 debacle should be studied and referenced in consumer protection law till the end of time. Now granted, the Steam page said Helldivers 2 on PC would require a PlayStation account, but I have a question. Why in the name of sweet liberty was Helldivers 2 even available to purchase at all in the countries where PlayStation Network isn't available? For months! Not to mention, in the middle of this PR firestorm, Sony tried to pull a fast one and change their terms of service from "it's optional" to "it's required." Sneak level 100, nicely done. Thankfully, Sony did reverse this decision after a few 100,000 negative Steam reviews, but fellow Helldivers, democracy almost lost. But hey, I'm proud of you gamers, way to show the suits your backbone, seriously. Almost brings a tear to my eye.
Now do that for $20 skins.
Now don't let the PR bros fool you though. The only thing Sony actually reversed is making all PC players link with a PlayStation Network account. All the people in those countries at the time of recording this are still out of luck. It's debatable whether or not Sony had to reverse this decision at all, legally speaking, and I'm no attorney, so my opinion on this is about as useful as nipples on a man. But if nothing else, this helped blast to the mainstream the gravity of just how little control we consumers have over the digital goods we purchase. Now that it's out there that our digital libraries can be taken from us at any time, what happens now? Here's my predictions that may or may not age well. New hardware will more often not include ways to play physical media, if any of them do at all. Physical media, like shows, books, games, they'll disappear eventually. Our access to these things will be completely dependent on what service we're subscribed to and when they decide to provide us with the content on those services. Anytime we're watching our favorite movie or TV show, it could be the last time we get to watch that movie or TV show. Digital content will be updated over time, like we've seen with Stranger Things and the original Star Wars trilogy. Maybe it's to retcon narrative choices, maybe it's for political sensitivity, maybe it's just to update special effects. But whatever the reason, we will be stuck with the newest version, for better or for worse. Outside of the subscription services, digital media will continue to be removed from customers' catalogs as licenses expire and deals between companies fall through. For gaming, purchasing games outright will be a thing of the past, not just for physical media. The smaller game studios are going to struggle to compete with the larger companies, even more than they already do, which will diminish competition in game development, making it where the big franchises get bigger and continue to be milked until the end of time, rather than seeing as many new, fresh IPs.
Keep that gelatinous gold a-flowing!
When a new game does come out, say like the next Madden, Battlefield, or Call of Duty, the subscription service they're on will temporarily remove older entries in the series to encourage us to play the newest one, and hopefully buy microtransactions, of course, which will likely become more intrusive and aggressive and gameplay impacting than cosmetics are today. If companies are complaining about how expensive game development is now, imagine what it'll be like when almost every game is on a subscription service. They will tell us that they have to turn the heat up on microtransactions, and many will believe them. We might even see subscriptions be required to play a single game more often, like with Final Fantasy XIV, except the free trial being even shorter than it is with that game if new games will have one at all. Games will be removed from players' catalogs if they don't agree to ever-changing terms of service, and this will become even more common and accepted by gamers than it is right now. After all, repeated exposure to bad practices in the gaming world breeds tolerance, and tolerance breeds acceptance eventually. My videos and comment sections show several examples of this. Which brings us to the big question, what do we do about this? Well, I could tell you to avoid physical media entirely, and if it requires an online connection, then avoid it like the plague. I could tell you to support people like Accursed Farms, who's sending petitions to different world governments specifically about digital consumer protection. I'll put a link for that video of his in the description if you want to hear what he has to say and check out his petitions. But at the end of the day, when it comes between the more affordable option that offers more convenience and temporary access versus permanent ownership of a product, the only person who can decide which of those things is more important to you is you. As subscriptions and digital access continues to phase out physical media, just remember, when it comes to digital media, we own nothing. Labeling a game early access is one way that I've seen companies try to take away our rights as players, and here's a video about that right here. It's an older one of mine, so go easy on it, would ya? Thank you to the channel members for voting on the topic of this video, and as always, thanks for watching. Kingerd out.